I'm an instructor here at the fund, and my co-host, oops, oh, I'm having some issues with my PowerPoint. Tamika Quinn is a services lead and a case manager here at the fund. Let me try and fix this really quick. Oops. Okay. So before we begin, I'd like to give you all a brief overview of what topics we'll be covering today. So we'll go through a background. Oh, okay. I just got a notification that the PowerPoint may not be working. One moment, please. Okay, so now there we go.
If we need to go.
Okay, so I think it should be working now. So for an outline of what topics we'll be covering today, we're going to go over a quick background of the education supports here at our fund. We'll do a brief run through the course types and course components, and then we'll get to the meat and potatoes of student learning barriers, online learning tools, and issues around online learning tools. So as you can see here in ESS, which is Educational Support Services, we focus our work around three major services, the most popular being tutoring, which can be accomplished by meeting with a fund instructor, such as myself, using an online tutoring service, which we use through tutor.com's 24/7 access, or meeting with a contracted tutor, which we manage here in-house. We also provide preparatory materials for both specific subjects like biology, as well as books to prepare for placement or entrance exams like the TEAS or the HESI, along with hosting basic skills classes or workshops through work with a local nonprofit called Literacy Source. As an instructor for the fund, I spend most of my time working directly with our members to support them in their coursework. And since my background is in biology and microbiology, I try to focus my support with members taking science courses. But in my time working here, I've supported members in almost every prerequisite they can take for their pre-health majors. Some of my other work revolves around collaborations with case management, helping with entrance exam and test prep, along with some small project work, which most recently included organizing a collection of academic review web resources to share with our members. And I'll actually be getting to that a little later on in the clinic. And, you know, when anticipating what types of additional resources students may need, it's helpful to start with what type of class they may take, since each model has different opportunities to support students. There's also limitations within each type which should be considered before a student enters a class. In general, online courses often require a student to be more self-disciplined and self-directed in their approach to the material. With that being said, our members look for classes that fit around their work schedule, so online and hybrid courses are actually very popular. Similarly to a preemptive needs assessment with different course types, course components are something else I try to assess early on when working with a student or a class, which I'm sure case management does as well. And knowing what's in place and what room there is for additional support is where categorizing course components into information transmission areas, synthesis areas, and assessment components ensures that you can easily find any gaps that are present. Common challenges we've encountered here are where, you know, lectures just don't happen, or lectures may not be accessed for review, which can be an issue with our members who might have a language barrier, for instance. In terms of notes, a student could have poor skills in that area. You know, they may not have sufficient time to digest materials covered in class, or the class may not have support materials from the instructor. Textbooks are a common barrier in that they are initially looked at as the primary reference source and end up not being used at all or may not be aligned with materials. One moment, please. Okay, I got some messages from people saying that they couldn't see anything. I was also hearing feedback from somebody. Okay, it's good now. Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to continue. So some additional student learning barriers are, where practice problems may not be clear to students, or they aren't provided by the instructor, or they may even cover items not previously introduced by the instructor. Finally, for exam prep, many students may not understand how to prepare or how to use prep materials, or at the other end of the spectrum, there may not be any materials available or they aren't well aligned with the expectations of the assessment. Okay, now that we've covered what barriers there can be to learning, we can move on to some remedies. And so we've organized online learning tools into 4 easy-to-remember categories. Videos, which can be recorded lectures like we see at many universities, concept tutorials, which tend to be quite short, practice, which is exam prep, study aids, information databases, which are your reference websites, not just Wikipedia, but more specific information databases, as well as textbooks, which is pretty self-explanatory. And before we press onward, are there any specific tools that any of you may be using or interested in learning about? I'll give it a minute. Okay, well, I mean, if I'm moving through and you have a question, just shout it out. I'll see it on my screen. But let's get started. I'm a little bit laggy on my end, so. Okay, the first information database resource we're going to be talking about is the Purdue OWL. Now, online writing labs are often extensions of an institution's writing center, and why I continually use Purdue's online writing resources is that they have very extensive formatting and style guides and even offer tutoring and ESL materials. They also offer their guides in a printable format, which is convenient for students who may only have temporary access to the internet. And so, let me take you there now. Let me know if this is not showing up. Let's see, I hope one. Okay, so hopefully you're all seeing the homepage for Purdue's online writing lab, nicknamed the OWL. Pretty much every university calls their writing labs OWLs when they're online, and it's actually Purdue's 20th anniversary, fun fact. And so what we can see here is that there's banners and side navigation panels showcasing the major site sections, and most of our students end up using the research and citation sections, but there are additional resources that they may not be familiar with that offer exercises that benefit both ESL students and those who have to review grammar, let's say for a COMPASS exam, which is a college placement assessment, or a nursing entrance exam. So why don't we go take a quick peek at research and citation to show you why I like it so much. And there's also suggested resources, which are on the front page immediately when you just want to get straight to how am I supposed to make an APA research paper. And so you can do the general format, which is what most students get to, and that's looking at the reference lists for, basic rules, like how do I cite electronic sources, since everybody's looking up articles online. But if they're confused, like let's say their teacher may not have had time to go over what APA formatting was, they do have a style workshop, which gives you the definitions, why is it used, who uses it, what types of papers can you see, and so forth. And the next part is actually what I take every single nursing student that comes my way to is the subject-specific writing section, but I'll actually just go here using the top navigation panel. So you may wonder, like, why am I going there? Well, Purdue actually provides a complete section that's devoted just to writing and nursing. And this is where a lot of students, they went to school 5, 10, 20 years ago, and now they're expected to write a professional research paper, and that, is a little daunting. And so what I like to do is take them through this resource here to give them a general overview about how they should be writing, what's your audience, etc. They even give you examples of like what types of writing they could be expected to do. But my favorite one is the list. Under the list of nursing resources, they actually have a sample paper. And so I've seen students carry this particular document around throughout many courses because it's their first insight into what does a nursing research paper look like, because normally you can't look that up online and your teacher doesn't give you an example. So they can see with full citations and explanations of how they should be writing and what it looks like in terms of formatting. And so I print this out, and it's provided by the Purdue OWL. And now let's go back to the main website and look a little bit at ESL writing. And so that one, what's kind of funny is it's given its own section. They've changed its navigation a little bit, but you have two wings of their resource here, which is one for instructors or tutors, which would obviously benefit me, and then for students, they have sections which they've actually developed into even higher level ESL resources, which is how do I write for different audiences, along with what you would assume are traditional grammar rules. My only complaint about this entire site is that the actual exercises that used to be under the ESL section are now in the general writing section. And what I mean about exercises is if you go through some of these, let's see, we're going to do general writing, mechanics, grammar. We can actually do some tasks. And so we can learn about appositives, right? Because that's what we do on Fridays, is we can do these types of things, and we can go to the answers and see that. And if you may have noticed that you see the full resource for printing, this allows students who come in to work with us or one of our tutors to come print out this resource and practice it at home if they don't have a computer. But really, this exercise used to be under the ESL section. Now it's under just regular general writing. And as we can go to their sitemap, we can note that there is many, many parts to this website. So one of the issues with it is that it's quite extensive, it's quite expansive, and students often have difficulty navigating around, so I usually have to show them once or twice where they need to go on the website to access their reference materials or their grammar exercises, etc. But I think that's it for this one. Let me switch us back over to PowerPoint. So any questions about Purdue OWL, or anybody want me to go back? I'll pause for a moment. Okay, that's great. I'm hearing good things. Okay, for our next resource, this is representing the practice wings of online tools. We have Quizlet. And so kind of a fun fact about it, this resource was actually started by a high school sophomore who wanted to share his French vocabulary flashcards with his fellow classmates because, you know, different language. Most of the flashcard sets are actually uploaded you know, by students currently, and they do have some sets that are created by teachers. And so even though there isn't active fact-checking, you know, for these flashcard sets online, there's so many available that this resource has been very popular for students looking for free practice they can print out or even use on their phone. And which is nice because, you know, many students either have an iPhone or an Android device and they have it available on both platforms. So let me take you there now. One moment, please. Okay. So, you know, what you may notice going on now is that we have a world map with all these dots popping up, and what those dots represent are users on this website who are actually actively accessing different flashcard sets right now in real time, and so I thought that was kind of cute. And it really kind of speaks to, you know, how much is being uploaded to this website, which is good, just because we don't want to work with outdated resources. So how does it work? Well, you can, you know, on your own, you can go through and try it in 60 seconds, just get a taste of what working with flashcards is like. And of course, scrolling down, you can read about different wings of it. But let's say I'm a student in A&P, and I'm looking for some practice. And easy as that. So search results for A&P. Now, as a student, what I would look for is what's a really recent one, right? And what's nice is that they give you dates. So would I want to go to 2011? Probably not. Also, it's talking about arthropoda. But let's try this August 10th endocrine system here. And so what we can do, if we had an account, we could actually copy this to our account if we want to, which is one of the benefits of logging in, and it's free. So well, our first step is, you know, we can go to flashcards or we can just look at the list. So the first thing you see is all the terms available for you to study, all for free, which is awesome. And we can flip through them as we would with a normal 3x5. So this is also eco-friendly if you don't think about the cost of a laptop. Our other option is we can learn them by doing a test. And so they're saying, you know, oh, one of these steroid hormones produced by the adrenal cortex, water, and electrolyte balance. So we can type it in. And so we say, oh, well, doctor, no, they wanted mineralocorticoids. So what you can do is if you say, oh, no, that's the wrong answer, you can say, oh, I was right, and, you know, you can send a message to the user and say, hey, I think this is the right answer. So even though there isn't, you know, a Quizlet employee going around checking the flashcards, that students are working with them enough that they tend to be fairly correct overall. What's also very nice is that they're actually I believe it was either late last year or early this year, they've expanded their website to try and appeal to kinesthetic, you know, audio and learners. And so what we can do is a speller activity. And it's where you type what you hear. And you may not have heard that. It's probably a little bit hard right now. But the computer talks to you, you hear a word, and you practice spelling. And so we have it set to fast, and of course you can also have the definition spoken to you. And so this is really nice for students who, you know, either have a hard time hearing or maybe are a little bit slower with definitions, or even ESL or ELL. one of my favorite new features is the way that they can set up the flashcard sets to make exams for you. And they're not just exams in one format, they're exams in multiple formats. So we can actually practice with many different types of questions. And so this is really reflective of the types of tests that we see our students taking over at the community colleges or even at the universities. And for the last two, which are slightly more stressful activities just because, you know, you want to win, are the scatter. So let's watch myself try and find something. Let's see. Okay, so what you do is you grab a word and you match it to its definition to remove it back. To remove it away. And what you'll notice is that there's a time clicking here, and so it seems like a simple activity, but for a student who's having timing issues on their exams, this type of action will help them improve their speed. Because, you know, tests are timed. Not everybody has the luxury of having an untimed test, and so this way they can work with many different words, and as you can tell, it is not as easy as doing a flashcard. And the last one, which this one is to me very, very difficult, is you have to read a definition as it goes by and then type in the word before it hits the end of the screen. So let's pretend like, oh, I don't remember what this one is. We'll let it hit the end. And as it goes by, it'll prompt you to say, oh, what is the answer? You know, and you, oh, you know, and you just put it in there as they write it, so they want the full name. And this is actually kind of, if anyone's familiar with Princeton Review, it's very familiar, or very similar to the way they do hyperlearning, which is having a student go through content again and again and again, and, you know, constantly correct their mistakes to overall get more and more answers right. And so I guess that is really it for this website, except, wait, there's more. If we go back to the cards, we'll be like, well, what happens if, you know, I don't have a smartphone or I don't really have a computer at home? Well, there's their original print function. And what you can do is you have multiple modes to print out these definitions. You can do a table, you can do a glossary, small, large flashcards, or you can even print them directly to index flashcards. And most of our students tend to do the small flashcard sets, and you can even export it to PDF if you like. And this is the part that's really great for students who are kind of transitioning to the digital age, where they can still have paper flashcards, but also you know, practice it online if they choose to. So that's it for this one. Any questions? Any comments as I get us back to our presentation? Nope. Okay.
When you finish the education? The 9th of this month? Yeah, which
Okay. So for our next resource, represents videos, although it goes even beyond that, is the Open Education Consortium. And this consortium is a community of universities who are committed to sharing and advancing open courseware. If you have an Apple device like an iPad, you may have heard of iTunes U, which has like free courseware there. And so this one is actually you know, hosted through the university's websites, and they have lectures and outlines and syllabi, homework and practice exams that professors have opted to share. And it is really sort of like an international thing now. And our fund does link to this organization. However, when directing our members to this resource, we've taken the time to find open courses that were relevant to our members' prerequisites. So I'm going to take you there now. Okay, hopefully we're all seeing the main website here. And so this is just a nice link to the organization where you can read about them, but really what our members would go to would be the courses. And so as we can see, right, there's multiple ways we can search for them. I can type in, algebra, I could type in calculus, or I can go through by provider and look at what universities are offering OpenCourseWare, and this is all free. And it's not that the university has to offer every single course, it's that they elect to offer particular courses. I could even choose by language, which is nice because sometimes it's good to read things in our mother tongues. There's search engines, and so what's really nice for students, if they were using this website, it's better to send them through Serendipity, which is their sort of smart search function, to get students to the course they want, since it has a more visual search experience for them. So let's do biology and take a look. Okay, so as we go through, we see there's different courses, different visuals, and what is the best part is there's multiple tags here, and I think someone's unmuted, but that's okay. So what a student can see is they can find tags to each course representing what different subjects or topics might be present there. So why don't we check out this one to get the full experience. And this is through MIT. You see it here. And so this is what they get through, a little bit more in-depth way to look at it, but let's try and go to it now. So as we see here, we're now being directed to the MIT OpenCourseWare section of their university's website. And if you're wondering what we're looking at here, Xenopus is a frog. It's a type of African frog, and there's a baby frog mouth right there. So it's essentially a tadpole. But anyway, so what we can look at here is, let's say a student, goes to their case manager and says, hey, I'm going to be taking biology, haven't taken it since high school, and we can reference them to go to MIT because they can go to this course and look at the syllabus and kind of get an idea of, what are the expectations, how many exams can I maybe see that I have. And now it's not going to be, perfectly reflective of what course they may take, at their school, but we can, get a really nice idea of, like, what am I going to be talking about, what are my readings like, what topics do I have to cover, so that they can take a peek and see, how much time are they going to have to spend, how hard is it, how easy is it. And if they so choose, they can listen to the lectures, either audio or video. They can even download some course materials. And so, as you can see, this collection isn't complete. I'll talk about a university a little bit later who has a more extensive course recording. But are there any questions about OpenCourseWare? I know oh, have any of our local colleges put OpenCourseWare on this site? Yes. Yes and no. The University of Washington has a couple courses, but they're in Renaissance Italian Studies. So, they're not that relevant to our pre-health students, which is just sort of why, and I'll talk about a little bit later, we organized our OpenCourseWare resources the way we did. But that was a very good question. And I think if we go back to the actual link, I can just go. If we go to courses, we can go to courses by institution. So you guys, I can scroll down slowly and you can kind of see, what, if there's any universities, maybe it's your alma mater over here. Quite a few, so these are some of the big ones. Some schools may opt to have OpenCourseWare but not be a member of the Open Education Consortium, and so that's one caveat too, which is why we dug a little bit deeper to ensure that we had as many as possible. But okay, let's go back to the presentation. Welcome back. Any more questions about the Open Education Consortium? It's a pretty cool network. But if not, that's okay too. Okay, for our last resource, the ever-famous Khan Academy. And this is probably one of the more well-known online tools, and as with any of my lectures, I like to have a fun fact, right? Salman Khan, he kind of started Khan Academy with just tutoring his cousins over the internet, since they were all the way across the country in Louisiana. I think he was in New York. And he was uploading these YouTube videos to help them with their math, and that, of course, blossomed into the Khan Academy we see now. And the other reason why they're so famous is due to their substantial work with their math learning tools, as well as creating a way for teachers or coaches to access classroom data to help monitor student strengths and weaknesses effectively. What I do want to make clear, though, is that the only portion of the website when you can actually do practice is around math subjects or computer programming. All other subjects only have topic or skill videos. Now, they do have extensive video collections, but there is no actual practice there that a student can do. So let's check it out. Okay. So if you haven't been here in a while, there's been some changes. Right, learn almost anything for here. Everything's for free for everyone forever. And so you can start learning now. If you click that, it'll prompt you to sign in. And you can also notice, right, they have a lot of advertisement for what other programs can you look at. But what hasn't changed is if you go up to the navigation bar, right, the subjects. If some of you have used Khan Academy in the past, you may be familiar with something called a knowledge map, which looked like a giant constellation with many different stars, kind of like a Google Maps sort of setup, where you can click, you can zoom in, zoom out, and click on different skills and practice. Now, that's still available, but they have changed it so that math is now separated out into different sections based off of, the points and the common points in education. We would see them. So if we were to go through here, let's see, what do we do? Well, we can go to Algebra 1. And so this is just regular public access without logging in. So this is our view, right? We get the introduction, linear equations. We can click on here. And as we scroll through, we're wondering, well, where do I practice? So the icons with the little play button represent videos, and then the practice comes up here. And so this is probably what most people, if you're familiar with it, are used to. So when we look at these, right, this is their strategy, is that a student is asked a question, they write the answer, but what happens if, they're a little bit confused? Well, they can watch a video, they can get a hint, or they can see another example of the problem worked out. And so that's still there, but, it's a little bit more hidden than it was before. Another way we can go is to the science section, my personal favorite. You check out some health and medicine, And so when we look at these, we may initially think like, oh, there's not too much here. But really, you just have to click in and see lots and lots of videos. And I know that they've been working a lot with students in like medical school and so forth to come up with additional prep for tests, such as the MCAT, and for our members, the NCLEX RN is always a fun section for review. It's a great way for them to get started with kind of seeing these things. Okay, so now what's a little bit more interesting is what happens when you have an account. So let me log in for you. And the one disfortunate thing is that I've already made an account. So you can't see me do an assessment exam just because I haven't decided to make a new email address. But when you do create an account for the first time, so like if we went back to the home screen, you see, when it says like, let's get started with learning, it'll prompt you to do a math placement exam from the get-go. So that was a little bit interesting when I first did it. And so you can kind of see where at very, very early in the morning or very late in the day, you can kind of see how I did. And that says, you know, these skills I have completed based on my test results, and these I have mastered. And so as we keep going, I'm going to take you back to the subject lists. And what you may notice is, it doesn't look the same as before. So I clicked on the same link, I went to Algebra 1, but now it looks a little different. And so the reason why that is that they want to really help a student understand, you know, what skills are present within a subject, you know, and how they're progressing through it. And this is also data that, you know, instructors or coaches could have. So I've coached students in the past where they were working on math skills to, you know, up their compass placement scores. And it was a nice way to sort of see, like, are they practicing? How long are they taking it? Or maybe they're not practicing. Maybe they need some more help from me. But it's a little bit video gamey, where they set up challenges and you get badges for what you do. But as we can see here, right, we get, once we make an account, more of a push to do practice problems. Whereas on the regular website without logging in, we get a plethora of videos, but not as much practice. So I have assumed that this is because they wanted to be able to capture more data rather than have people sort of casually peruse the site. So is there any questions about the illustrious Khan Academy? Nope. Okay, I'll be moving back to the presentation. One moment, please. Okay. So, for the last place I'll be taking you is in the successes section. So, right, part of this peer clinic is they're talking about, well, what have we done well in terms of online learning tools? So it just so happens that we have organized them on our own website. So I'm going to take you there now. Follow me. Okay, so what we have here is, this is our main website, and under student resources we have academic review websites. So these would be indicative of our online learning tools. And as we travel through here, we see that there's some links, and we also have some direct links with explanations to very common and popular resources. So once again, we see Quizlet, Open Education Consortium, OWL, Khan Academy, everything I just presented to you. But we also, like, let's say if a student says, I'm taking A&P, what our case managers do is they say, well, here, why don't I forward you this link? You can check it out. Maybe you need some help. And so what we've tried to do is organize by subject links to resources that cover different course components. So I wanted to say, if a student, before a student starts a class and they're worried, like, am I going to have a lecture? Am I going to have practice? Am I going to, have tests? What's it look like, right? They can go and check out every single course component here. And so if we go back, you can see all the different sites. And some of them are, very specific into links to particular videos or learning sets. Others, I want to say, oops, see if I can get to one. There's some here which are direct links to the example worksheets with answers for students, and so that they can start practicing, which is, a little bit better for math. But yeah, so that's what we've done. That's what we set live this summer, and and we'll see how it goes throughout the fall and this next year. But since we're, approaching the end of the presentation. I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint, unless anyone had any questions. If not, let's keep going. So we're going to wrap this up with talking about some issues around online learning tools. So we'll talk a little bit about the ways we've addressed these issues and looked at what they are. So for the first one, in terms of access, some students, may only have internet access at work at school. So having a portable, non-electric study material may be crucial, which is why, right, the Purdue OWL, having some of the links we've provided with printable resources becomes very in need for these students. And, very familiar with paywalls. So now that we provide tutor.com, which is 24/7 online access, students don't need to, pay to talk to a tutor at, the wee hours of the morning. But paywalls do come up quite a bit since writing research papers is such a stressed component in multiple courses, chemistry, biology, English, A&P. Students have to do research throughout all levels, of course. And I just got a question about what a paywall is. And so what paywalls represent is instances where you actually have to pay to access materials. So, many students in writing research papers will, go through their institution's library online and look at journal listings. However, they find the abstract and they need the actual journal to write their paper, but that paper's behind a paywall. They would actually have to pay because the school doesn't have the subscription to that particular academic journal. And so what is, kind of a barrier, aside from not being able to pay for that resource, is not being able to, sufficiently navigate what free resources are available. And that's sometimes an issue depending on the topics they're covering. In addition, right, technological aptitude is a barrier, especially when you're, able to access your course, but you may not be familiar with what the components are or what you need to be able to effectively use all of your course components, right? Plugins, media players, where downloads go, right? And so these are issues that we've dealt with either through the student working with their case manager or with a tutor or an instructor such as myself. And spurious websites are another thing. It's just navigating the internet to know, what's a good website to go to, what's not a good website to go to. Next, we have literacy, which ties in, somewhat with having technical skills for navigating resources. This is, commonly a trigger for us to try and connect the student with tutoring support. And kind of stemming off from the technological aptitude, you have this issue of familiarity with course component terms, which what we covered before was like lectures, quizzes, assessments. Many of our students are returning to school after having a break in their education, which could be 5 years or 20 years. And in that time, the knowledge of how a class works can be forgotten. So many students, are left thinking that they have to rely on themselves alone. But this is where our very helpful case managers and tutors come in and really offer the full wraparound services so that we can ensure that no one gets slipped through with any cracks. And then lastly, we have centralization. And one of the the big problems is there's a lot of links, there's a lot of different resources, and there's not just one resource that can cover everything. And so it's really hard for a student to know where to start. They got to do a lot of shopping. It's hard to know exactly like what is an old resource that's good, what's a new resource that's bad, and and kind of stemming off of what some students are unaware of is that they may not know what learning style suits them best. And so a student may go to Khan Academy, try videos and say, well, this doesn't work for me, and stop their search for learning tools right there and then, not knowing that there's ones available that they can print to write or flashcards to practice. And so this is, something that case management tries to, have a conversation with the student about that, and, as a tutor, an instructor, we talk about that as well. And so that, my friends, is the end. And if you're wondering who I am, if you can see my cursor, I am this person in the back. This is our fund. It's our captain, Tamika. And that is all. So if there's any questions, I am ready to show websites, or if you'd like me to go back to our webpage, I can do that too. I hope you've all had a enjoyable experience, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. So, if you guys have further questions or maybe want to talk more about the websites that we list online, you can feel free to contact us, and we can help you get that set up or get that started at your fund. So, you're very welcome, everyone, for saying thank you. Suppose I could go back to our family image. Okay, I think we're good. So thank you, everyone who came, and anyone's listening. I hope there were some takeaways. Thank you again, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Thank you, Amy. I will, this is Safrina. I'll be sending out the PowerPoint next week.
Okay. Okay, do you want me to email it to you now?
Yes.
Okay, will do.